We welcome you to our program, Lena Live from Brussels. This program will be dedicated to our series about COVID-19. It is well-known fact that Brussels represents one of the international centers which has a very prominent group of medical institutions, outstanding scientists, and medical workers. Today we are very honored to have one of those people who dedicated themselves completely and selflessly to the issue of COVID-19. His name is Philippe Devos. He is a medical doctor, passionate scientist, and extraordinary human being. He is a part of CHC medical establishment, which is located in Liège. He is an anesthesiologist and he is the head of intensive care unit. He also part of University of Liège, and as I mentioned, he is a scientist whose points and one of the focus is around control of glucose. It's my distinct pleasure and honor to invite Dr. Philippe Devos to our discussion. It's 7 months since we've been faced with this tragedy. Where do we stand? What do we know? What we don't know?
Long question. We know now many things about coronavirus, and actually we know more in 6 months that we knew in 6 years about 8. So we make gorgeous advances in science about coronavirus. We know the immune reaction against the virus. In terms of acute reaction, we know the people that are at risk and people that are not at risk. We better understand the way of transmission of the virus, and we know we have some kind of treatment in intensive care. It's not a miracle treatment. There are still many of people that are dying from the virus, but less than in the first weeks. What we don't know if the immune reaction lasts in the time. We don't know if after one infection we will be protected against coronavirus for a second infection. We don't know that. We don't know exactly what makes that some people are very sick and others of the same age and with the same problem of health are not very sick. And so we cannot sort people at the beginning of the infection. We have to wait that the infection grows, and then we will know if the patient will require ICU or not. So we cannot predict the evolution of the disease. That's the main thing we don't know. We are not sure of all the way of transmission. For example, the aerosolization of the virus, the risk that the risk remains in the air in closed settings is not well understood at this time. So there are many discussions in science, but we have to understand that science is not certitudes. Science is doubt, and then thesis, analysis, research, and then answer. And at this time, we don't have all the answer, and that's why the rules that the scientists are giving months after months are changing, because what we know about the virus is changing too. So it's very important to understand. Otherwise, you don't understand what nobody were talking about wearing masks in the streets 3 months ago, and now many countries are asking to wear a mask in many places.
You touched upon this particular point of a confusion, because people do ask, well, things are changing, and they're very skeptical about this. Personally, I think change is good. That means that people are discovering and re-evaluating existing facts. So without this changing in dynamic, it's very hard to find the truth. I like to bring a little bit of the history to give a little bigger picture, to emphasize how particularly difficult this virus is. I'm going to the epoch of bacteriophage, when the virus was, if not discovered, but was really approached with a power of treatment. And it was at one time when viruses were used to treat, but then antibiotics stepped in and viruses stepped out. And then antibiotics were not so effective because bacteria became accustomed to this antibiotic. So my question relating to this, regarding this virus, because we hear word infection, and infection can be controlled by the antibiotics. And not to simplify, but infection can be more controllable than a virus. So where do we stand with the treatment regarding effectiveness of the other virus against this virus, or antibiotic against this virus?
Well, a way of treatment is to use plasma from people that have recovered from the disease, and so they have defenses against the virus. I mean, they have immunoglobulins, and these immunoglobulins can capture the virus before it enters in new cells, and then stopping the disease. So it's a way of treatment, but with the plasma of one people, you can only treat one people. So it's not a solution for every patient. But in the same way, some industry made a kind of antibody, but done in laboratory, not from real humans. And these antibody can go and attack the virus in the same way as the plasma from people that has recovered does. So it's one way of research is this kind of treatment. It will be treatment that must be injected in intravenous, so it won't be pills that you have to eat. So it's only for hospital use, so it will be only for a very sick patient. But it's one way of research that is going well at this time. So we have many hopes about this treatment.
But it was not used yet as a regular practice in the hospitals?
No, it's only for research in some hospitals in the world, mainly in the US. And we don't know at this time if it works or not. We hope that it's working, but we are not sure. About plasma of convalescent people, we know that it's working. There are 3 studies that show that it's working, but we have to wait for larger study with more patients. There is one research that is actually done in my hospital right now with other hospitals. We are around, I think, 20 hospitals in this trial, and we hope that it's working, but it's too early to conclude anything about that. And then we have antiviral treatment. Antiviral treatment are treatment that stops the replication in the cell of the virus. So it don't attack the virus, but it stops the replication. So it's a different kind of treatment. There are many antiviral now available. I mean, there are for HIV, there is some for herpes virus and so on. But we tried all antiviral that are existing in the world against coronavirus, and the only one that is little working but not highly working is remdesivir, that is used now many in the US, but the results are not very motivating for us because it only saves a percentage of people. So that's not what we are waiting for.
This is a little dreaming, wishful thinking question. Would it be possible, considering intensity of the research, to bring coronavirus to the chronic stage like Epstein virus, for example? So people would not feel great, but at least it will not be threatened by death.
But the normal evolution of the virus is to disappear from the body, so it won't be a chronic disease in terms of a virus that will remain in the body for months or years. But of course, maybe it will be like a flu. I mean, maybe every winter we encounter a new coronavirus, very approach of the one we have now, but a little bit different. That's a hypothesis. We don't know at this time if this hypothesis will be right or not. We are not sure of that, but it might be the evolution, and the solution against that is a vaccination or a treatment. But I don't think it will be a treatment that we'll have to take every day of a year, but only in epidemiologic situation when there is a high density of people contaminated by the virus. I mean, like influenza, for example.
Your vision was very progressive from the very, very beginning. In fact, you've been one of the brave mind who warned the government about danger and aggressiveness of this. That brings thought about second wave. What is your position now?
It's much more difficult to predict. I think it's more astrology than medicine.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, to be honest, it's very hard to say because it depends of many factors. Of course, it depends of the virulence of the virus, and at this time we don't have any proof that the virus is less dangerous than 3 months ago. In genomics, genetics, and so on, we have no reason to think that the virus is different. So it won't be by the cause of the virus. The only thing that can avoid a second wave is the attitude of the people. I mean, right now, I know that people that are more than 80 years old are more cautious than in February. And even if the government say that there is no more rules about coronavirus, I'm sure that they have changed what they are doing every day, and they will still be very cautious in the next months. And maybe only that, the change of habits of people that are age of more than 60 may be a solution to stop the second wave. So it's very difficult for anybody in the world to predict how a population will act in October. Many people around the world even don't know what they will do next day. So in 2 months, it's impossible to say.
You actually one of fewer people who is in a very high professionally medical position, indeed experienced the disease firsthand. And personally, I was very much taken by your open and sincere sharing about this and about your family. I was a bit shifted preparing a program with you because it is a completely different experience, even though with the same theme, with the same components, but nothing can substitute your own physical manifestation with such tremendous experience. Would you share at your own rights and comfort this experience and also your thoughts for others?
There were two experiences actually, one psychological and one physical. When you are a doctor and when you know the disease and the risk of the disease and the evolution of the disease, what happens in your mind is quite different than someone that thinks that it's only a bad flu. I knew that it was not a bad flu, so I knew the risk I had to, and I knew the risk that can happen to my family, to all my family around me. So it was difficult to deal with that, and it was a very stressing days. So I'm happy that now it's after me. I can see the life with less stress, and so I'm happy it's now after me. About physical manifestation, I had a semi-severe disease. I was at the limit of hospitalization, and I had many symptoms. The most difficult symptoms for me were headaches and sleepiness. I've slept more than 18 hours a day, and I was incapable to stand up more than 1 hour a day, and so it's very hard. I'm 45 years old, so when you are in your 40s, you don't feel a limitation in your way of living and in everything you do. And I'm working more than 50 hours a week, so I'm a workaholic, and so it was very difficult for me to remain in my bed, and I had to sleep more and to relax more, and I felt very tired during more than 20 days, so very long to recover also. That's another thing that's difficult for me, because I was thinking, well, in 10 days I will go better, but 10 days after I was very, very, very sick. It was, I think, the most difficult day I had. It was around the 8 to the 12 days of disease, so that was not easy for me to have such a long disease. It was the first time in my life that was sick more than 7 days, to be honest. So it's not always easy, and you also know that you are leaving your colleagues alone. So you also think about that. You say, "Oh, it's not the time to be sick. I have to help my colleagues." So that's what's not easy. But yeah, everyone understood, of course, and my colleagues were calling me every day to know how I was going. They are giving me advices and some help. I even have colleagues that went to in front of my house to give me cookies and many things to eat. So it was great. Even if I've been incapable of eating anything during 5 days, I've lost 8 kilograms. But after that, I ate all these things with a higher appetite.
Strength and life gradually came back. Very much profoundly thankful for your sharing this, which leads to another very sensitive issue about the people. It's well known that we often criticize the government and especially around the world, there is a bureaucracy which takes over sometimes for too long time. But in this particular instance, I believe that the government is trying to impose some regulations, trying to set rules, schedule policies for protection. But there is a great resistance on the part of the public. And I believe there are three parts: general public, then the government, and then people like yourself who holds our lives, who really controlling the whole medical survival and the progress of this. And I believe that public should be much more appreciative and more resilient to these issues, and instead we see so much problems, resistance, and sometimes very selfish behavior. I particularly was surprised when Belgium Federation of Cultural Event wanted to bring some legal actions against the Belgium state because they wanted to renew their regular scheduling of events. And of course, obviously, there is another issue with people suffering because lack of funds, because they had to stop working. And that issue cannot be solved because it's a very harsh reality. What would be your just a general thoughts and general wisdom? Where is there is a compromise, if one can be found, with a people perception of reality in which you said it's very unpredictable what is tomorrow? And do you have support from the government in terms of your activities, in terms of your productivity and work with this situation?
Well, the things that people have to understand, but they are not. Some people are not able to understand that, is that the virus is more powerful than government. It's more powerful than anybody. We have lived now for more than 50 years protected by government. We are asking the government to protect our jobs. We are asking government to protect our house or the things that we own. We are asking them to protect and educate our sons. Some people even think that the children have to be educated in schools and that they don't have to do nothing anymore with their children. So that's an example that shows that people think that the government must solve every problem. But this virus is a problem that no government can solve. Only a vaccine can solve this problem. So in this time, there are to do second-hand solution and to try to limit the problems, but they are also to still protect jobs and to protect education and so on. And so it's difficult because there is no all-made solution. Every countries are trying some things, and as I said at the beginning, we don't know everything about the virus. So the solution are even changing every week, and I think people of every government try to do the best between the risk that nobody wants to go out of their houses because the virus is everywhere, and it will be also the chaos around there if the government protects nothing. And in the other part, the risk that protection measure can slow down some parts of economy. So they have to find the best way between these two problems, and there is no universal solution. So we look at other countries, they did that and it's working, they did that, it's not working, they open that kind of activity and the virus spread larger with that kind. And so everybody is trying a solution, but it's trial and result. And so you have to try and then to see what happens and then to change your position. And so it's a change management that is now the reality in the world, and I think it will be the reality for months. I think we'll have to do that for all the rest of this year, and it's not easy for people to understand that, but if they understand that the virus is stronger than anybody, then they can understand that it's like a war, when there is danger on the city, it's no time to discuss about what we have to close, what we have to open. We have to react like an army to do what people are asking us, and to go higher if the virus is going down, then to hope that we can open new things. But here there is a kind of fight of thinking in the population that is very specific, I think, of the Europe and the United States. You don't see that in Asian country, and I mean not China, I mean democratic Asian country, like for example Vietnam. In Vietnam, everybody acts like one people, and the economy is going better than here. They have opened many things more than here, but everybody wears a mask. There is no discussion group about what is good or not. They are acting as simple as they can, and the virus don't discuss and don't do politics. The virus is only following every mistake that one people do, and is going in the mistake, and it used the mistake to infect more people. The virus is not flying; it's going from one people to one people. And if you want that the virus go from one people to one people, that people have to make a mistake, and the other ones too. So it's very easy to stop the spread of diffusion. You just have to be very active by yourself. You don't have to say that the government has to do this thing, and this thing is one personal problem. Everybody can be the solution of this infection. It's not the government that will be the solution about the resolution of this infection, it's the people.
I don't know whether you will take my next comment as a compliment or not, but if a person like this will be in the government, we will be in a very good position.
Well, I don't want to go in government.
And that's why I'm not suggesting you to just comment on your vision and wisdom and very pragmatic and realistic approach. I like to touch upon two more subjects to come closer to the conclusion. Of course, vaccine. that reminds me a bit, because I'm a musician as well, that today's situation is like a symphony orchestra consists of many, many countries, but every musician has its own solo. And country has its own solo about vaccine. Just recently was an event in Russia. Today, just as before we had broadcast, I read that Pfizer has a agreement with American government to make 1,000 vaccinations for free in October. Of course, Germany is trying to do something. I again will allow myself to give a little bit of the bigger picture. Vaccine was quite prominent from the Louis Pasteur time, and here we are in the 21st century looking for still another vaccine. Where is the experience for all these centuries and time?
Well, we are only at the beginning of vaccination. I'm sure that vaccination can do much more than it's doing now. I mean, now we are doing vaccination against virus. We are starting to do vaccination against some bacteria. But we know that vaccination can also maybe protect against some cancers. So we are just discovering that kind of treatment. I'm sure that it will be much more present in the life of children or grandchildren. So I'm sure that it will be the solution. There are more than 200 trials about vaccines against coronavirus at this time in the world. There are more than 20 different vaccines that are now in phase 2 or phase 3 trials. So I'm sure that we'll have at least one vaccine. I hope in the beginning of 2021. That's not a problem that there is so much research about that, because maybe the first vaccine will protect us only 1 year, and maybe another vaccine that will come in June 2021 will protect us for 10 or 20 years. So maybe all these vaccines will be used in different situations. So that's not a problem. I think it's not a problem that there are so many vaccines.
If I can just interject about mutation, how mutation is challenging the vaccine?
Well, all the vaccine that are now in phase 3 trials are working on a small part of the virus, and that part where the vaccine are acting is not touched by mutation. It's a protein, and that protein is very stable actually. So this mutation won't be a problem for vaccination at this time. It's what literature of scientific journals are saying. So it's very good news. The vaccination will work, and I think that the vaccination will work for months, maybe years. So it's a part of the solution, but maybe not all the solution. Why I say that? Because if you want that the vaccination must be a solution, you have to give the vaccination for more than 80% of the risk population. If you don't give at 80% of the risk population, you still have the risk that the intensive care unit will be saturated, and that's the problem, because when the intensive care unit are saturated, you cannot treat anymore people that are doing infectus that are having an accident with their car, of many other treatment, because you don't have room anymore in your ICU. So it's important that more than 80% of risk people accept to be vaccinated. And there was in France 2 weeks ago, the Institut Pasteur make a survey in the French population, and more than 30% of the population refuse to have the vaccine. So if people continue to refuse in mass the vaccination won't be the solution, and the crisis will last 1 or 2 years more. So there will be a question when the vaccine will be available to force the vaccination of risk people, or to continue to do protective measures as closing bars and dance hall and so on, and mass gathering. So there won't be any good solution. You will have to choose between a bad solution and a bad solution. And I'm sure we'll have many debates in the population and in the politics when the vaccine will be available. But with so many people that are refusing it now, I think the government will have to choose between two bad solutions. And you'll see it won't be easy, and I'm sure that we'll have many interviews at that time.
I will be just before asking next final but very important question, but I will cautiously express some optimism. I think because lack of a knowledge about the vaccine, of course, I get many questions of side effects, immediate term or long term. I think if it will be more articulated, the substance of the vaccine, and also depending on pre-existing condition, I think if those factors will find a light of explanation, then it will be much easier for people to be convinced, accept, and finally use it. My question now has to do with two parts. One, I like to ask about yourself. Is the activity with COVID-19 continuation of your scientific work relating to some of your publications of, I believe it's a controversy about glucose. Do you feel, however, that because of this unexpected virus, you have to shift your interest? Where do you stand personally with your work?
I've stopped doing research since, I think, more than 8 years ago, when I've been head of department, and then been head of the medical council of my hospital. I made management in place of research. So I'm half-time manager and half-time a doctor right now. But I still have an information, is that when I started a clinical trial about glucose control in the ICU, the publication said before my work that you have to keep the glucose very, very low in the blood for intensive care patients. And then we show that if you are too low, you kill people. And so that maybe we have to put the glucose a little bit higher. It was not what people were thinking at this time. It was the first study that say the opposite of the other study before our study. And so I had to fight because people didn't think that we were right, and we have to defend another way of thinking. And then all studies after us showed that we were right, and now every ICU in the world are using the glucose target that we were defending in our paper. So it's similar as I've lived now. I've said one thing that was not the mainstream of thinking at the time when I was saying that. I think that many doctors thought the same thing as me, but nobody has the possibility or the will of saying that to many people, to the media. I made that, but it's because I've already made that 10 years ago with this study. Yeah, I have to go on many congresses around the world, and just to say that I think different from other people. So I'm used to receive many criticism and to fight against that, just to define what the research says. So it's the thing that I've learned from research.
Thanks for being so courageous. I know it's fortunately you are very young and healthy again, so you will be able to proceed. And I would say that personally, I hope that you and your team will be just as courageous, just as innovative to find some changing turns in treating this virus. Because I think it needs aggressive, dynamic, and very persuasive approach. I think we covered a fantastic spectrum of issues. I thank you so profoundly. I just a tiny little question: if anything I did not ask in this, of course, not incredibly profound scientific discussion, because I was trying to get spectrum for general ear for people who have enough education, our listeners, young intellectuals. And the purpose of these discussions is to help actually to understand, to orient minds and emotions around our times. And if I forgot something, or you can add, I'd like for you to have a last word.
My last word will be that we don't have to forget that we are first of all emotional body and then rational body. And so the vaccines are an example that if we are too much in emotion, we cannot think correct, and then we can make mistakes. And if we make one mistake one day, maybe the virus is here and is not emotional. The virus is not emotional at all. It will act like it's acting, and it will be dangerous. So it's everybody. The first reaction of everybody is an emotional reaction, but I encourage people to become rational after that, and to think, what can I do, me, to protect the people I love around me? It must be the question that we'll have to have every day when you go out of your house, for example. If everybody thinks about the others, then we will be the winner against that virus, whatever happens with vaccination and so on. The solution is in ours, and we have to come back to reflection, thinking, and not be too emotional. And I know that with the media, the trend is to transform everything in emotional. But please try to make a good mix against emotion and rational. That's why it makes a good doctor. You know, you have to be emotional. You have to understand your patient. But when you choose a treatment, you have to stop to cry with the people, and you have to act and to be rational. So that balance between emotion and rational, it's very important to win that fight.
I cannot thank you enough for this tremendous, in fact, mental, professional, emotional, and human investment in times where we all need it. I wanted to wish you the most of the energy and success and a personal satisfaction on what you're doing. And I think having people like yourself and a team of medical community, of scientific community, gives us a very good perspective of what we can expect and give us a very clear dose of our personal responsibilities. So thank you so much. That was Dr. Devos, who is one of the key people in fighting this pandemic, and one of extremely brilliant professional who sees present as a food for the future, and who was kind enough to give his time, his energy, his scientific vision, and we all very much appreciate that, and we will take it to our mind and our emotions. That was Lena live from Brussels. Until our next conversation, thank you very much for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.